For years, J. Cole has been teasing the Falloff, which is meant to be his final album. And originally it was slated for release in 2020. Clearly it is no longer 2020, and we still don't have the album. But what we do have is the off-season. Welcome to the Bar for Bar podcast, and we're going to talk about what the hell the off-season is. So, first things first, if you're not aware of the Falloff or the off-season, the Falloff is, like I mentioned, it's meant to be J. Cole's final album before retirement, or at least that's what everyone is thinking. Whether or not that's actually true, we'll find out, I guess. But this album has been teased since KOD back in 2018, and I think it all really kicked off with his Album of the Year freestyle, which dropped in like June or July of 2018. With that, everyone was, they were obviously expecting the album. He also, he's been teasing things like I think it was at Rolling Loud where they had like this whole display that said the Falloff 2020, and it was presidential themed, so everyone was like, oh, it's going to be like a presidential album maybe, or it's like a final album, who knows. It was even themed with teased when J. Cole did the track with Thugger, the London. So it's been something that he's been kind of mentioning here and there, but we haven't gotten anything yet. The closest thing to confirmation of the project that we've gotten, well, there's a few things. He had the essay that he wrote, I think it was The Audacity, back when he did that track talking about No Name. Besides that, we don't have a whole lot of information in terms of like what he's doing. Because in that essay, he kind of talks about how he doesn't feel like he's confident enough to release the project, or, something along those lines, basically. After that release, he did put out the 2-piece, which is meant to be on the Falloff as well, which included the Climb Back and Lion King on Ice. Both the tracks were pretty solid, and it really was just to keep fans satisfied, I feel. But taking a step back though, with this flowchart, you could say, because I have no other word for it, J. Cole listed a few things. So everything that he's been doing, I guess, since 2018, since KOD, has been the Falloff Era. The Falloff Era first included his feature run in 2018, which was ridiculous. He killed literally every feature he was on. I'm sure there was one or two where he missed, but still, he was on so many good features. So that was dope. That then led into Revenge of the Dreamers 3, because if you're aware, he did say he wasn't going to be doing any more features. I think the last one he did was the one for Gangstar. Was it Family and Loyalty? Yeah, so that was the last feature he officially did. I'm sure there's other features that he's done that hasn't come out. I mean, I think I saw something about Nelly, or no, Usher. It was an Usher feature, but whatever. After that, he began working on Revenge of the Dreamers 3, which, I mean, you could also consider like his final batch of features too. Sure. And that came out in 2019, with the director's cut dropping early 2020. And now we're solidly in the off-season. So after the off-season, just so we know where we're going after this, we have It's a Boy and the Falloff. To me, the off-season could mean a couple of things. Seeing as J. Cole hasn't done a whole lot since Revenge of the Dreamers 3 in terms of releases, he could just be taking this time literally as an off-season, like he's just chilling. Or this is the season where he's just putting in work. One of the two. I think it's more of him just kind of prepping for the Falloff, because if you think about it, the next one, It's a Boy, is it really feels more like it's in relation to his newborn child than just an album or project or something specifically music related, because It's a Boy it would be an interesting name for an album. I know a lot of people are hoping that's going to be the long-awaited Kendrick and J. Cole collab album that they've been talking about since like 2014. But come on, that's probably not going to happen. If it does, dope. I mean, I would love to be wrong about that, but I don't expect anything to come of that. The other thing that the off-season could be, I mean, it could just be him doing other things. Because in this time, he's released two different silhouettes for shoes and multiple different colorways for the original Dreamers. So maybe this is what he's doing in the off-season. What a lot of people are leaning towards, though, with the off-season is that this is going to be like a mixtape or a project. And I can see that, too. Because in the video that he did for Album of the Year Freestyle, there was I think the cover for it technically was basically saying it was Album of the Year Freestyle and then the off season, and it was like 205, something like that. I'll try to pull it up, but basically with that with that image, everyone assumed that the off season was coming this Friday at the very latest. Oh yeah, so it says J. Cole Album of the Year Freestyle, and then below it the sign says the off season 7:05 to 7:50 a.m. or 2:05 to 2:50 p.m. What that means is really probably nothing. It really could just be a random sign that they made just because it looked cool. But a lot of people are jumping on the idea that it could have released then. Obviously, that still hasn't happened, so we're still without further J. Cole music, which isn't a huge deal. It is what it is. He'll release when he releases. But because he specifically mentioned the off-season in the cover for the Album of the Year Freestyle, it makes it feel like, yeah, no, there might be something music related to it. Like something may come of it. And I could see that. If it's what he might end up doing, in my opinion, if it is music releases, is he could do something like Kendrick did with Untitled Unmastered. Just kind of put out these unfinished Lucy's that are dope, but they didn't make the cut. With Untitled Unmastered, it's a little different though, because those were songs that he would perform live, even without actually releasing them. So that's a little different. I don't think J. Cole really has any songs that he's performed without releasing them. That's not really his whole thing. But who knows? It could be. Yeah, I mean the off season's weird. To me, off season in general is a time where you're not really actively competing, you could say. So let's see, for sports and stuff, your off season is the season that you're not actively playing in. Let's take football for example. The football season is effectively over now because the Super Bowl is today at the time of recording. But basically the off season begins right before that, because not every team gets to the finals and the championships. So for most players, the off season begins about a month ago or so, and that goes until football season comes back up in the fall. In that off season, they're either just living their lives or they're training. So for J. Cole here, he could just be chilling, but realistically he's preparing for his on season, you could say.
It's a little bit easier, well, for me, like if you look at bodybuilders, for example, like if you've seen any bodybuilding competitions, these guys are like super defined and cut and all that. But if you look at them during their off season, they don't look anything like that, because in their off season, that's when they are trying to build up, basically. That's when they're putting in all the actual work. So it's a little bit different there. Like, there's really two ways you can think about it. Like, it's similar in the sense to just to regular sports that have seasons, because that's when you're kind of preparing and really trying to become better at your particular sport. But it's also just a time to relax, and that's where it gets weird, because having it be called the off season, I would assume it's more of, trying to improve himself rather than just kicking it. But like I've also mentioned, he has a newborn, so his off season could just be him spending time with his child and helping out, because newborns aren't the easiest thing to like take care of, really. Like, I mean, I don't know if you've been around newborns, but they can't really do nothing. They kind of need you to help them. So just saying. Which actually leads into the next section, you could say, of the Falloff Era. It's a boy. So if his off season is what we're in currently, because that's the one, like everything else prior to it is crossed out, then we have It's a Boy next. Now, I don't know exactly when this flowchart was written. Maybe J. Cole was expecting to have something out before he had a child. I don't know, because it could have very well been written back when he originally planned to do the fall off. And given that timeline, sure, yeah, I could see that working. Because I think he had his child last year, so then right after that he would have his album release, and then he'd just be chilling. But now that things got a little weird, he wasn't able to release, or he didn't release last year, or he didn't release the Fall Off last year, so it's kind of up in the air. Assuming that this is written prior, at least. If this is written more recently, then sure, we're very solidly in the off season. It's a Boy could be literally anything then, and then eventually we'll get the fall off. There's a lot of potential outcomes for this. I don't know. So if the off season, like before I get too into the other parts again, if the off season is meant to be a mixtape or an album, I do hope it's something kind of along the lines of Untitled Unmastered, like I mentioned. But it could also just be just a mixtape, like not necessarily having a particular concept that he's going for. Because, with J. Cole's previous projects, he tends to stick to a particular theme and doesn't stray too far away from it. Like every project is very solidly in that concept. So the off season could just be all these random tracks that he's done that really didn't fit anywhere. That's what I would hope for, actually, more so than getting an Untitled Unmastered sort of thing. Because, Untitled Unmastered, as good as it is still unmastered. So it's not like, for me, I know I don't return to it as frequently as other projects, because it's unmastered. It's unfinished project tracks. Like, that's fine. But if J. Cole goes that route where these are finished tracks and they just didn't fit anywhere. That's dope. I'm totally fine with that. It could also be because I know J. Cole was like with KOD, I believe. After that, he was like, yeah, no, I'm gonna try to work with other producers and other artists. To me, I think he probably finished that up with his feature run, but he could have also gotten a bunch of features from other artists, because I know a lot of artists, they do features for features. So what that means is to, like, if, for example, let's say, I guess Wale is the only person that comes to my head right now. So say Wale taps in with J. Cole and he's like, hey, let me get you on a feature. Cole's like, alright, bet. But you gotta do a feature for me too. So that's kind of what... That's a very poor example or poor explanation of what feature for feature is. But regardless, that is a possibility too. So you know how many damn features J. Cole did. Like, he had features with Royce, Wale, Black, Thugger, obviously. Like, there's Gangstar. There's so many features that he's done that he could just call up and be like, hey, I need you to do a feature now. If the off season is all of his features that he got off of his feature run, like, that'd be dope too. And if that's the case, it could be very well that J. Cole is treating this as almost like a sparring match. So he's gonna go as hard as possible on all these feature tracks, or tracks with feature artists. And that would be dope. That would actually be really fun. I don't think that's gonna happen, because even though J. Cole said that he would be trying to work with other artists, it's kind of hard to get out of your old ways. Like, once you're kind of stuck in your ways, you don't really want to change it up too much. But it is a possibility. And if it happens, I'm 100% for it. I mean, regardless though, if whatever comes of it, it's going to be exciting. Now, moving back to the other listings here. It's a Boy. I know a lot of people are saying it's going to be, or they're hoping for it to be, the Kendrick and J. Cole collab, which actually they're also saying the off-season could be as well. I could see that. Similar sort of ideas as the feature sort of run. I don't think that's going to be the case for the off-season. It could be for It's a Boy, but I don't know why. I think people are just saying that to say that. Like, I don't see anything that would really lead me to believe that. But if that's the case, that's cool too. Yeah, we have more. I think there's more ideas over what the off season could be, more so than It's a Boy. It's a Boy is just, like, when I saw that on there, I was just like, I don't know where you're going with this, J. Cole. Like, what are you trying to say here? I mean, for that, we'll probably have to wait and see. It could be another sort of, like, essay thing. Like, because J. Cole will just be doing a lot of stuff, Like, he only goes to social media nowadays to promote shoes, which a lot of people are upset about, actually, because they get their hopes up every time he tweets something. But that's a whole nother conversation. It's also kind of funny though, because he tweeted out, I think last week or the week before, it's like, man, I've been slacking on Twitter. I'll try to get back to y'all or try to figure this thing out again. That was kind of funny. But I don't know, with It's a Boy, we've got no clue what it could be at this point. There's, like, almost nothing that can tell you what it would be. I mean, we can all speculate that it would be like, oh, maybe this is going to be the Kendrick collab. Maybe. I don't know. How are we really supposed to know? because, like, one, there's literally no information out there. Two, he just had a child. Like, what if it's just that? Like, what if it's what I was saying before, and it's just a flow chart, like, or a timeline of where he wanted to have releases? Like, yeah, in 2018, he had his feature run. In 2019, he had Revenge of the Dreamers 3. 2020, or somewhere between 2019 and 2020, that was his off season, and he would have a child by then, or in that off season period, and then he would release the Falloff. Maybe. I mean, I don't think with this flowchart exactly it was necessarily written right before all of this. It was probably written midway through the Revenge of the Dreamers process, like at the earliest, I would say. Like, obviously it could also have just been written whenever he posted the tweet, but I'd like to think that it's a timeline that he expected to follow, but clearly things changed. As far as the Falloff goes, though, it's weird because I think the 2 tracks that he released, The Climb Back and Lion King on Ice, were meant to be for the Falloff, and obviously in 1985 because it was subtitled Intro to the Falloff. Like, I think those are meant to be on the Falloff, but that just leads to more confusion about the off season and It's a Boy. If those tracks were meant for the Falloff, what tracks are we getting on these other potential projects? If these are even going to be potential projects, like, they very well, like I said, could just be random timeline events. Like, Cole could just be chilling right now. Like, that could be his off season. It's hard to say. But still continuing on the topic of the Falloff specifically, yeah, we have almost no information. Everyone is speculating that it is his final album. I forgot exactly why we thought that. I know there was a whole lot of stuff about it when 1985 came out. Or also the Album of the Year freestyle, I think. But I don't really remember now, actually. I probably should have looked that up earlier. But regardless, it's just weird. Like, everyone expects it to be his last album, and everyone expected it to be released around the elections because of the original, like, political theming to it. Because, like, I mean, if you look it up, it's just, like, straight up a political ad, it feels like. I think even some of the teasers that they posted, or not posted, but they had playing during concerts, made it seem even more so like that. I mean, at this point, I don't know if he's going to keep it as a presidentially themed album or rollout, since the 2020 elections are over and inaugurations already happened. Because I've always said, like, the very last day that he can put it out, or would be the week of the inauguration. Otherwise, going the Falloff 2020 just doesn't make sense anymore. So he's probably going to drop that sort of branding for it. He's probably just going to leave it as the Falloff. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, he could still leave it like presidential, but I don't think that would fit the theme as well anymore. Like, because the last few years have been so political, and in terms of, like, just everything in the US, like, it would have made sense, and I understand why he was doing that. Because, you know, J. Cole, I mean, he's in the streets sometimes. Like, he's out there showing support. So he obviously cares about what's been happening over the last couple of years. But I don't know, we'll have to see. So to summarize just everything, the Falloff Era is currently what we are in, and it began in 2018. The Falloff Era started with J. Cole's feature run, which obviously was pretty damn good. That then led into Revenge of the Dreamers 3, and currently we're in the off season. The off season could be just where J. Cole's working and like putting in more work, trying to refine his craft, or it could just be a time where he's chilling and just relaxing before the actual album, because like I mentioned before, he has had a child recently, so he could just be, you know, helping out with that. However, it could also just be a project, like I was hoping. It could be just all of the returned features that he got from his feature run. It could also just be a bunch of random Lucy's that didn't really fit anywhere else, because J. Cole's albums tend to be very conceptual in nature and very focused in terms of theming. Or, you know, we could just get nothing. Then with It's a Boy, I think, honestly, like if this timeline was written before, like before he had his child, but like when he knew he was going to, like it could just be that he wanted to get these things done in that particular time. Like, and then originally he may have planned for the off season to be the time where, you know, he's just kind of helping and preparing for his child. But alternatively, It's a Boy could be another project. I know a lot of people speculate that it could be that J. Cole and Kendrick project that everyone's been waiting for, but I feel like there's not enough evidence to say. And then with the Falloff, we'll get it at some point. The Climb Back and Lion King and Ice are supposed to be on there for sure, as well as 1985. But given that we have no idea when it's going to release now, it could very well be that those tracks get shelved and they just exist as Lucy's. We don't know, and we won't know until J. Cole does something. Anyways, that's about all I got. Let me know in the comments below what you think is the off-season It's a Boy and the Falloff are meant to be. If you feel like the off-season is just a time where he's chilling, or if it's going to be a project. Same with It's a Boy. Obviously, we know the Falloff is going to be a project, but who knows? Maybe you have a differing opinion. Let me know. Also, remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, where I just ramble on for 30 minutes just questioning things. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.